This is the Western Obsessions TV podcast, where hunting's not a hobby, it's an obsession. All right, guys, welcome back to the Western Obsessions TV podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Belding, and my guest today is the queen of carbon, the president of Carbon TV, Julie McQueen. Julie, how are you today?
Oh, I could not be any better. Every day is a good day, right? Or at least we tell ourselves that.
And if it's not, that's just a good way to look at it.
That's right. Yeah, everything's good. Everything's wonderful here. I'm happy to be on here catching up with you.
Yeah, and thanks for being on the show. I know you guys don't know this out there, but Julie and I tried to do this about a month or two ago, and we had some internet problems. And we did. I love the podcast. I had so much fun on the podcast with you, but the recording was terrible. So we're like, let's do this again. So I really appreciate you coming on a second time with me.
Of course, yeah, I own that completely. I'm at the Carbon headquarters, and for some reason that day, boy, we just had some real issues with our Wi-Fi. So I'm pretty sure we solved the problem.
Yeah, I think we're solved. It sounds good, looks good. So let's jump into, before I kind of get back to, let's for the listeners that don't know who you are, if they don't know who you are, they're probably living under a rock and don't watch Carbon TV, but let's jump into that first and then we'll get to like what you've been doing. But Julie, tell me about yourself. Where'd you come from? What are you doing now?
Yeah, so Julie McQueen, most people call me Jules. I've been in the outdoor industry for, probably going on 18 years now. So quite a while. And I'm kind of, in the beginning, I was more known for TV production. So behind the scenes, I executive produce, line produce, field produce, and posted some shows over the years. And then my path brought me to Carbon TV. I came here probably about 5 years ago and took over operations. There was a kind of some changes going on in the business at the time. And then pretty quickly after, I became the president of the company. So now I do this and I get to have the best job in the world.
Very cool. And if you guys have not watched any Carbon TV, you absolutely should. I love Carbon TV. I've worked with a couple different television, platforms, and I love working with Carbon. You guys are so cool. Autumn's amazing. Is she back or is she just on her honeymoon right
now? I miss her. She's been on her honeymoon for what feels to me like 6 months, but I think it's been a week. So she comes back to work tomorrow. Yeah, it's what I love is that almost every interview I do these days, her name comes up because she's just so wonderful. And who doesn't love Autumn? Autumn's my right hand at this business a lot of days. And I've tried to surround myself with people who are really passionate about what they do.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. And I know she's handling a lot of shows, but she makes you feel like you're the only one that she's taking care of, which is a very cool trait to have. And again, guys, if you have not seen Carbon TV, it's absolutely 100% free. You log on to Carbon TV, create a profile, and you get to watch a whole bunch of really cool hunting, outdoor fishing, and a lot of other stuff. Do you guys have a lot of different other platforms on Carbon, right?
We do. Yeah. So one of my goals over the past few years was to kind of diversify our content library. So, I'm from a hunt fish background. That's definitely where our passion lies. But, we started realizing that so many other great forms of content were out there being created. So now on Carbon, you can find so many other types of shows. So we still got hunting, fishing, a huge amount of that. But then we also have, aviation, survival, agriculture, dog training, just a lot of other types of video content that people seem to really love as well.
Yeah. And that's great. And it's super diverse. You guys are diversifying even more. And it really seems, and maybe it's just me and my bias, but it seems like the industry is really starting to get away from the, what's the word I'm looking for? Linear TV, where it's, you gotta be on this station at this time to catch this show. And there's just a lot more streaming happening. Are you seeing that with Carbon? Are you guys seeing a lot of growth because of that?
Yeah, so two things. I have seen that trend. I come from a network background, so I've watched over the years as people have begun, leaning more towards the digital distribution space. One major reason for that is we can track data very accurately. So we can see not just how many households it's available in, but we can see how many people are actually consuming that content and for how long. Retention's a big deal for us. We want to know how long people are watching, want to make sure they're entertained and sticking around. But then the other side of that is and it's kind of a tough one to explain, but we've also moved into what looks very linear, but it's still a digital distribution method. It's called fast channels. It's free ad supported television. And this is global. So in a lot of other countries, we partner with networks where we're actually creating an electronic programming guide. So similar to what you would see on a linear network. So we have a programming guide, all the shows air at this very specific time, and it's a separate offering. So we can still track all that data. It's all digitally done, but it also provides another way for people to watch shows that they maybe wouldn't have access to, but it's always free. So it just kind of really put us in a lot of other households.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, I mean, let me wrap my head around that a little bit. So obviously you guys are kicking ass in the digital space and the streaming space. So now you're basically doing a linear play on the back end of that, right? So are you like just like I know like Samsung TV has like Waypoint TV that's automatically
Mhm.
on when you buy a Samsung. Are you guys doing something similar to that?
Yeah, we're on the same thing. Yep.
Same
If you
thing.
go
Yeah,
to Walmart, buy a Samsung, Carbon TV's on there.
that's
Yep.
great. That's cool.
Yeah.
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 So that's
Yeah.
my nerdy business background that's kicking in right now. I'm
Yeah.
interested in the business side.
It's kind of a game of making sure that people have access to it and that we're at the front of their minds when they do feel like they want to consume content. So, if somebody uses Roku or Apple TV or Samsung or iOS, Android, no matter where they're consuming that content, but we also watch what type of device people are watching on. So if you're sitting there and you've got like 8 spare minutes in your day and you want to watch something on your phone, that's very different type of consumption than if you stream it to your TV.
Yes.
So we're kind of monitoring, what types of that's why it's good for us to have all different types of content. Somebody might want a 7 minute quick tip educational video on their phone, but they'll probably want, long form, maybe like a documentary or a short film, if they're streaming to a television. So it's really fascinating. It's such a cool business when you dive into it that way.
And that's exactly what I was going to say is I bet you short form is more on the phone. When I'm ready to sit down with some popcorn or whatever to watch something longer, we pop it on the TV, right? So it's
Right.
just human behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we really celebrate people just kind of providing all of those different time lengths. So, if somebody's creating 2 or 3 minute, short videos, we make it really easy for them to bulk upload all of those on Carbon so that people can really consume them and just binge watch all of it.
Oh man, that's great. So now I'm getting all these ideas for my show, right? So I do a
Ah,
lot of like reels, everything within a minute or a little over, and shorts on
mhm.
YouTube. So I could take all those shorts and reels and throw them on Carbon too, huh?
Absolutely. They perform really well because we have what we call a recommendation engine. It's built into our system, very similar to YouTube.
Hmm.
So when people start watching, one of your videos, we'll feed them the next one. Roku, for example, we have an update that came out not too long ago where it will autoplay the next one, and people can just sit back and enjoy and relax and binge watch all of your content that way. Which I mean,
Right.
that's such a great way to kind of just let people relax and enjoy it instead of like on video on demand, they're just constantly picking the next video they want to watch.
Right. Man, you guys are evolving pretty quick. It
It's
seems
so
like quick from an outside looking in. It probably seems like it's been years to get to that point for you, huh?
yeah. Well, that's what's so funny is, a lot of times people see the public facing or forward facing part of what I do or what we do as a business. And they think, oh, cool, you stream some videos, but behind the scenes, man, we just have these amazing genius people working here who they're coming up with ideas and they're, really improving the user experience, which is important to me.
Hmm.
Because if somebody comes here and they don't like their experience, they're not coming back. So we want to make sure people are really happy when they're consuming that content, and also that we're learning what those viewers want and need. So we have all that feedback coming in, and we're making updates and changes. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that people probably don't ever know about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially the consumer side of it. Like we just want the end product. We don't need to know how the pie's made. We just want to eat the pie, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
all of us chefs are over here in the kitchen going, "Ooh, what kind of pie do they want today?"
That's right. That's really good. All right, Julie, I'm going to take a little turn here. I mean, that's great. That's awesome. I love it because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've been an entrepreneur over the last 20 some years. All that stuff just feeds my like business brain. But I really want to know, how'd you get into hunting? I know this a little bit of the story from talking last time, but the viewers need to hear it. I need to know how you got into hunting.
Yeah. So I grew up in Oklahoma, small town, kind of like an Indian reservation area. And, there was a lot of outdoor activities. So there was camping and maybe like went fishing one time, very, very limited in the outdoor experience. And I graduated high school a little bit early, moved out really young, and moved to Missouri. And when I went to Missouri, I don't know if, I should do like hypnotherapy thing. So I can recall exactly what it was that was that spark, what that moment was when I realized, oh, this is something I really want to know about. So
I mean, you want to bring back
I,
trauma that you have
yeah,
forgotten?
right. Yeah, that's okay too. I'm all right with bringing back whatever, but like, when was that moment when I saw a picture of someone with a deer or recognized that this is something I didn't know about that I was curious about? So I went to Barnes and Noble in Springfield, Missouri, and I got a bunch of hunting magazines and books, and I would just sit at the table in the little coffee shop in the bookstore, and I would just read about, hunting and animals. And nobody in my youth had ever explained to me that there's different types of deer. I assumed they all look alike. I didn't know they lived in different states. What was an elk? No one mentioned that that's an option. So there were all of these animals that my eyes hadn't been open to. And it, just kind of this whole hunting thing as a culture that wasn't explained to me. So I went to hunter safety course and passed that. And I got permission on some property. I borrowed a rifle, it was a 7 mag. And the property owner was like, you can kill whatever deer walks by. Well, I didn't know that blinds or tree stands were a thing. I just went out and sat down on a ridge. I kind of like snuggled between two trees, got my shoulders in there and put the rifle up on my knee, and a deer walked by and I shot it. And, that was the beginning. I had never seen an animal die up to that point. I had never killed an animal. It was very emotional. But that was the point where I realized I didn't know anything at all. And that all of these magazines I've been reading, they talked about the excitement of the hunt, but not what happened afterwards. So I
Mhm.
didn't know I couldn't pick up the deer. I didn't know I wasn't big enough to lift that thing up and just put it in, in the truck. I know that sounds really, I sound like a crazy person saying that now, but back then we didn't have the internet. I mean, I'm sure the internet existed, but there was no social media. There was broad access to that
Right.
type of information for people like me who doesn't come from a hunting family. So that was my start. I started working in the industry immediately after. I still have the letter that came, like a typed out letter that was mailed to me, snail mail, from the first company I ever worked for in the industry as promotional staff. Back before that meant something different from what it does now. And I worked for Scentlock and Muzzy Broadheads, both of them.
Yeah.
And I would go to store openings and I would learn their products and I would talk to people about hunting. And I didn't know any other girls doing it at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, about to jump down a big rabbit hole, but let me back up a little bit there. Um, I could see 100% why you didn't have the knowledge of like, okay, I want to go hunting. It looks cool. I'm definitely interested in it. I'm gonna read all about it. And then I'm out hunting. I shot something. Oh crap. Now what do I do?
What do
It
you do?
happens now with a lot of new hunters. They go out, and the
Mhm.
big thing now is like guys kind of my age or younger want to go out and do bow hunting for elk. And then what happens if they actually kill an elk? And they're 6, 7 miles in by themselves. What are you going to do, buddy?
Right.
So like I understand that 100%. So what did you end up doing? Did you just like phone a friend and like help?
I called the property owner and they came and helped me put it in my truck. And I was like, well, where do I go now? I mean, what do you do? So they explained, typically you go to the meat processing place and the taxidermist. So I went and did that. And to this day, it's the oldest deer I've ever shot. I've never killed an older deer than
Was
that
it a
one.
doe or was it a buck?
It was a buck. And
It was
he
a
was
buck.
huge and
It was
beautiful.
huge.
And yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
he's a big Missouri buck, and he's super old and just old monarch. And it was just that beginning, that experience made me realize why it's so important to have these mentorship programs. So I'm on the board for a lot of them. I work with a lot of programs who make sure that other kids at least have the option, so
Yeah.
we can kind of It's like a little cheat code, get them in a little faster than, when they're in their
Oh, for
20s.
sure.
I wish somebody had done that for me. So it's
Mhm.
kind of important to me to help other people with that.
That learning curve is so steep, and I want to go back to like your first position in the outdoor industry, but like since we hit on the mentorship real quick, is that learning curve is so steep. If I didn't have a dad that was in hunting, and my mom also, actually hunted with my mom almost as much as I hunted with my dad, which is awesome. If I didn't have that, the learning curve to like actually be out in the wilderness and hunting is tremendous. So I started a mentorship program too called Hunt Mentor. And I just started it last year, which I don't even know what I'm doing with it right now. Right now it's just people like calling and like I'm giving them advice. And I take someone hunting once a year that's never gone and stuff like that. But that learning curve is tremendous. So if we don't have mentors like that, it's be tremendously hard for someone, an adult onset hunter, to go hunting. So tell me about your mentorship stuff. I see you doing some things, definitely with women's groups for sure. I see that, which is amazing. Tell me more about what you do.
Yeah, so one of them that's really close to my heart, I've been on their board for quite a long time, is Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. Mike Christensen started that organization a long time ago, and he's got a great staff now. They're mostly in the Midwest, but they're trying to expand. And what they do is they they go to, for example, high schools that have competitive skeet shooting,
Hmm.
and they will mentor those kids the kids already know gun safety, they already have a shotgun to work with, and they will take them on their first hunt to kind of try to be that bridge from shooting sports into hunting, and then hopefully those kids get excited about it and do the same thing, right? Start introducing their friends or other kids at school into whether it's pheasant hunting or turkeys. They take, I think it was like 1,200 kids on their
Oh,
first
wow.
hunt last year. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what they do. So, I've been really passionate about just kind of making connections with them, trying to make sure that they're on the right path. That one's really cool. But just because that's the one I work the most with doesn't mean that that's the only one.
Mhm.
I get so excited when people say, "Oh, I just started, a new mentorship program," or I work with this other one, Raise Them Outdoors, or all of the ones that exist. They all have a purpose, and a lot of them have learned that you can start collaborating and working together.
Mhm.
So, just because, one is doing this and that one's doing that, they can kind of find some common ground, and, all ships rise with the tide when we work together as a community. So,
I like that.
and then, yeah, and I do work with some women's organizations. I make sure that I'm available for young women coming into the industry. They all have my contact information. Not that I am a know-it-all or that I can always solve problems, but it's good to have a friend sometimes.
Mhm.
And, I know that these young women coming in, hopefully one takes my job someday. And I want those women to be prepared and to be knowledgeable and to have good resources. So for me, it's really important to be, one of those pillars. As I've become older in this industry, I think it's our responsibility just to naturally mentor, right? If we see
Yeah.
somebody who needs something, we should be helping, even if it's not under the supervision of an organization.
Oh, 100%. And I think I see a lot of hate still out on social. It's not as bad as it used to be. I think
Mhm.
some of we've kind of bonded together when we have issues like, Washington bear spring season coming back, the wolves in
Mhm.
Colorado. Like us of hunters, we've started to bond together a little bit, but there's still a lot of hate out there where like a newbie may ask a silly question on social media and he gets reamed, right? Or she gets reamed. And I just don't think it should be that like that ever. You're there if you're a veteran hunter, you're there to like pass your knowledge on and like support other hunters. So I don't know. I just had to say that real quick.
Yeah, and there's room for all of us. I've surrounded myself with a group of really strong, powerful women who lift each other up. That's my choice. I can choose who comes into my world and who has access to me and to my friend group. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is the way that we've rallied around each other and been supportive behind the scenes, things people would never even know about. But some
Mhm.
of the biggest female names in this industry, we are very, very good friends behind closed doors. We give each other opportunities. We make sure we're taken care of and supported. And I think that that kind of breeds that positivity that we need more of. It just naturally breeds it.
Yeah.
If you put all the negative stuff out there and don't let it in, and all you have is this kind of, empowered movement, including the new people coming into the industry without thinking they're going to take something away from you. There's room for all of us.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. The law of abundance, right? You think about it, the
Absolutely.
abundance, not the lack of. So
Yeah.
as a woman I mean, you're president of Carbon TV. I'd say you're a top pillar and a big face in the hunting industry in general, let alone women in the hunting industry. Let's go back to that first position in the outdoor industry with scentlock or muzzy broadheads or both. Tell me about that position and how that position is different and kind of how you got that position.
Yeah. So back then, the way promotional stuff worked was, you would send your photos in, and then, I got a letter in the mail, which, I saved after this many years, because it meant something to me and it gave me an opportunity to network and to meet more people. But what we would do is learn about the products, go to store openings, send in our photos if we had success in the field, and kind of build our network that way. That was my first kind of step into the industry. One thing it taught me was that you're going to have to prove yourself. I mean, being a female, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how old you are. Sometimes there is a bias there. And I think you just have to kind of know that and say, okay, well, that's fine. I'm doing this for the right reasons. I have good intentions. So it will all work itself out.
Mhm.
But then I moved from that into running camera. uh, the filming hunts, being behind the camera, that was something I became really passionate about. And I started volunteering to film people when they were hunting. I would sit, and this is back in the day, right? Not like the little cameras we have now. This was the
Right.
big tree arms. And I have these pictures of me with this massive camera, and we'd lug it up in the tree stand with us. And I would just volunteer, wasn't getting paid for it. Just, one way to learn the equipment and to learn the industry was to just devote my time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I got into that side of it. I met a lot of amazing people who I'm still friends with 20 years later, and started just climbing that ladder in a legitimate way. So ended up co-owning a really big production company in the outdoor space. So we were doing a lot of TV commercials, TV shows, just a very, very busy busy time as far as the production side. And that's still my passion. I still love to go film people's hunts and volunteer, and not do it for a job, but it's just, I think that remembering why we got into something is really important.
Absolutely. And while you're filming, it's the same thing as hunting. You're doing everything the same as you would be hunting, except instead of pulling the trigger, you're clicking a button or just clicking the
It's
record button.
yeah, it can be even more rewarding to just
Yeah.
be a part of that adventure for somebody else. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, you started out as a what would you call it? Was the first position? It was
it's promotional stuff. So like
promotional
pro
stuff,
staff,
pro
but
staff. Yeah.
yeah, but like the OG of pro staff, right?
OG.
Like,
Yes.
yeah,
When
with
you
no
got a
social
letter in
media.
the mail, your acceptance letter in the mail, not an email, an acceptance letter. That's
Yeah,
definitely OG.
right. There was no social media. There was no, like pose with this thing, and which I'm not slamming that at all. I mean, I'm all for it. We hire influencers, like for sure. That's a true business. But back then, it was just very different. My experience with it was a little bit different.
Yeah. I mean, the industry's changing so fast anyway. Like from then to now, like there's a lot of changes that have taken place. So being, an OG and probably I'm not saying probably like the first, but definitely one of the first few women in the industry doing that type of thing. And now you're president of Carbon TV. Tell me about like, let's talk about women in the industry and how much of a boom there is right now. And you're
Yeah.
kind of leading the charge on that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, there is a boom. And, we see it fluctuate, right? So I noticed about 10 years ago, there was kind of an influx of women who were coming into the industry, younger, young women. And, what you said earlier resonates because there is some hate towards some people sometimes that, you know, I don't know if that stems from, jealousy or insecurity. I don't know where it comes from, probably on a case by case basis. But my view on that has always been if there's a female or whoever it is, and they are presenting themselves in a certain way. But they're doing it with good intentions, then that's their story, and we should be supportive of that. A lot of these women who were coming in back 10 years ago, 8 years ago, that were getting a really hard time, they were actually encouraging a lot of other women to try something new, which I thought was great.
Mhm.
So who are we to judge? But then you have kind of the females that are more well known in the industry that have been doing this a really long time. They have a credible, business. It's actually like a business that they've created. They're producing, they're hosting, they're, really making an impact on this industry. I know most of them, and I know them very well, very personally. And I couldn't be more proud to be looped in anytime people talk about those girls because they're kind of amazing.
Yeah.
They are, very smart business women. They work their butts off. They absolutely do what's right with the best intentions. They love what they do. So, what more could you ask for? I think that in this industry or community, whatever you want to call it, if you really take a step back, take a big wide look at all of the female presence that's been created over the past 10 years. It's something to be proud of.
Mm.
And the way that not just women have supported each other, but the companies, organizations, foundations, brands have supported those women and made it possible. I'm super proud of that.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's something that's close to my heart. I mean, I have a lot of good friends that are women that I go hunt with, and they're great. But my daughter's 13 and she likes to hunt. So I take her out on her hunts. And so I really enjoy what you guys have done, all of you women in the hunting industry, to kind of pave the way for my daughter to be accepted and to open those doors for her. We could care less if she got into the business side of it, but I love that she enjoys being outdoors and it's an accepted thing as a woman or as a teenage girl right now. And and yeah, it's helped pave that highway for her too. So it's
Yeah.
close to my heart.
Yeah, part of our job as women who work in this industry is to make sure that there's space. There's, space for young women to feel safe and accepted. And I think, that's a pretty cool feeling when we get feedback that it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I see stats all over the place on how I would say the female hunting industry is really the only growing demographic in hunting right now, the largely
Yeah.
amount. I mean, there's a little bit of boost of like archery, elk hunters and kids, but the female hunter is kind of the growing is keeping us hunting alive.
Yeah, yeah, and what we're seeing from that too is a larger female viewership. So like in my line of work, we're watching, okay, great, we have traffic, we have viewership, but like how many of those are women and how many women are feeling like this is something they want to watch. So as we've started adding more female led content, so female hosted, female produced, content that kind of revolves around that, we've seen the female viewership grow, which is really important to the business model. We want to make sure that this is very inclusive and that there's something for everybody. So that
Yeah.
part's been really exciting too, is to see that number that used to be down here, and now that that female viewership is growing a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, would you say the next question I have for you is about hunting, about you hunting, but what
Okay.
would you call like the most memorable hunt you've ever been on? Would that have been your first hunt? Because that seems like a pretty memorable hunt. But think about it real quick. What's the most memorable hunt you've ever been on?
So yeah, I mean the first one's always super memorable.
Yeah.
Um, I, I people have asked me this question once in a while, and I think one of the most memorable. I've only hunted with my dad one time. He started hunting more as I became an adult, and my mom did too, which is really cool.
That's great.
I've never hunted with her, but I would love to someday. But I hunted with my dad one day, and he shot a doe, and we were just in this double ladder stand sitting shoulder to shoulder. And my dad's a military guy, my mom was also. They met in the army. So I'm sitting next to my dad, and I remember our plan was shoot a doe. That's all we wanted to do. And he actually, this doe walks into the field, pretty textbook, but he shot it left-handed. And he's ambidextrous, so he can shoot
Oh,
right or left.
okay.
He's one of those guys. And I just remember going, that is so cool. I didn't know my dad was so cool, and that was a long time ago. I haven't hunted with him again for quite some time, but just that moment of getting to experience that with my dad was really memorable. And here I am, we shot a doe and we cleaned the doe. I cleaned it, and we have that memory together. And of all of the things I've done over however many years, all over the world, some of the greatest hunts that you could ever imagine, that doe meant more to me than anyone could ever even come close to putting into words.
That's fantastic. And I think that is when I ask people that question, it's typically not the biggest or most mature animal they've shot. It's usually has a lot of background to it and a lot of emotional ties to that, like going hunting with your father.
Yeah.
That's usually the answer I get. I took my mom elk hunting. It was 2 years ago for her first elk hunt ever. And I grew up hunting with her, whitetail hunting with her. So that was a really cool experience for me. She ended up shooting a bull, and it was really, really good. So that's
That
probably
is
one of my most memorable hunts too.
right. Yeah, there's something about, I mean, that's the reason why we love this so much. It's that connection, not
Mm,
just to nature and earth and animals, but to the people around us.
yeah,
It's how we build community.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And
Uh,
I'll say that anybody I go hunt with, there's like a natural bond that just happens when you're out
yeah,
hunting. And so if you
man,
want to like bond with someone, go hunting with them for
go
sure.
hunting. I am telling you, that is so true. Back in the day, I produced a show. It was on the network, and I produced it and I co-hosted it. And part of the whole story behind the show was I wasn't hunting on the show. I was just hosting. But we would take people on their trip of a lifetime. I think the show still exists, but we ended up, you know, not producing it later years. Um, but those guys that we would take on those hunts, and this is 8, 10 years later, I still get Christmas cards from their families. I still hear from them. They'll send me messages, and I spent maybe 3 to 5 days with them total. And this is
Mhm.
years and years later, and I still get these wonderful messages of the impact that had, on them to have that experience. And yeah, so we can never take it for granted that every day that we're out there with somebody, it's making core memories.
It really is. And I don't think I've ever been on a hunt where I was like, "I never wanna see this person ever again." I'm sure that's has happened where, like, maybe
Yeah.
it's too many days to I don't know what's together, you know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point, I'd hope I just had the guts to be like, this is like the worst hunt I've ever done. Let's just not, but I haven't had that either. I haven't ever been in the field with somewhere where I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say for anybody out there that has kids and you're questioning whether or not to take your kid hunting, I absolutely do it. Not to, like, try to get them hooked to hunt or anything like that, but there's something that I found out last season with my daughter. 'Cause she's now a teenager, she's 13, and, dad's not cool anymore, mom's not cool, we don't hang out, she doesn't like to if I go up to try to give her a hug, she's like, "Oh, dad, God, what?" But we went out hunting for 2, 3 days, and we actually talked. We like, because you're out there all day and you're not on technology and stuff because there's no Wi-Fi. So we actually talked and had some really good conversation. So if you want that as a parent, if you're out there, take them out hunting and you'll get some really good quality time with your
Yeah,
child.
it's true. And another thing that people have I'm not a parent. I have a dog, but I don't have any human children. But if I did and I wanted to have them fall in love with the outdoors or hunting or fishing, whatever that is, I think that even just being experiencing the outdoors, even if it's not hunting related, and kind of gauging their interest and giving them little jobs to do, whether that's give them access to the maps that you're using, or have them help you navigate, or finding a job for them so that they feel like this is something that's attainable and something that they can achieve and something they can do, and that interests them. It can start with camping. It can start with going for a really cool hike. and kind of experiencing nature, identifying kinds of poop on the ground, just really, basic stuff that kind of introduces them slowly so that it's not overwhelming.
Right. Yeah, I probably want to introduce them like straight to a backpacking elk hunt where, like you're eating freeze-dried food and bars, and yeah, I probably want to start there, but that's a really
Right.
good point, is like give them little tasks to do
Yeah.
to be part of the journey and of what you're trying
Yeah.
to accomplish. That's really good. So do you have
Mhm.
like a bucket list hunt? Is there anything left that you were like, man, I really want to go do? Maybe it's not even a hunt, maybe it's just an adventure.
Yeah. So I definitely want to go to Spain and hunt ibex one of these
Mhm.
days. That
Mhm.
to me, every time I see pictures of, photos of just the landscape and, everything available over there, so that's pretty high up on my list. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big one. But I would need like a month to go to go just explore, see the wine country,
Yeah.
kind of take it all in. But Spain's up there. I'm actually headed to Argentina in a few months, so that'll be fun. I've never been there before.
Red Stag
But
or
yeah,
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 wow.
I'm really
Very
excited.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few places, but I think that as I've gotten older, it's more about yeah, I definitely want to go do that hunt, but what else can I do while I'm there? What else can I go explore and
Experience the
and see?
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like a history nerd, so I really, I want to kind of dive in and see, some of the historical sites.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Which Spain would be fantastic, and like like you said, you'd spend a lot more time there. Yeah, go on your hunt for the 7-day hunt or whatever it might be, but
Hmm.
spend a couple more weeks hanging out, kicking around towns, wine country. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might get my wife into hunting if that was the case. Because
No.
she's like,
Yeah.
"Nah, whatever." But like if I was like, "Hey, let's go to Spain and you can hit some wine country," and like, okay, I'll be gone for 5 days hunting, but you do
Right.
your thing in Spain, she'd probably go.
I think you get convinced.
Yeah, I definitely could convince her to go along with me. What about, obviously going back to a little bit about being successful or success in general, you've definitely come up the ranks and made it to a fantastic position that you're in right now. Can you give any pointers on what you think is like the key points to success, or something that you may do in a daily that you think is really beneficial for success for you?
Um, one, my go-to, my key to success is to have grace for yourself. Know that you can't do it all. Sometimes those of us who are overachievers, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and that transfers into our work. So people understand if you don't get to everything every day, if you fall behind or make a mistake, which we all do. So I think that over the past few years, I've learned to have more grace for myself and to be a little more forgiving. That comes with humor. So, if I make a mistake or do something wrong, I mean, come on, like what people aren't going to remember it in a few days. So I just definitely have taken it a little more easy on myself in those regards.
Mm.
But the other thing that I think is really crucial is time management and understanding what you are capable of, and making sure that you set yourself up for success. So the way I do that is, I have an agenda every day. I know exactly what I like to do in the mornings. I know exactly what I have to do, and then I manage that. And I make sure that I give myself the opportunity to also enjoy this part of my life instead of, just smothering myself with paperwork and
Right.
and locking myself in my office like I used to and never coming out. So it's all about balance
Yeah.
and you know enjoying that journey and doing your best, um, and then finally I would say surround yourself with people smarter than you. Everyone on my team is brilliant and amazing, and I know I get a lot of face time for this business. I'm the face of it, I'm the president of it, but I mean my team is amazing and I lean on them. We work together. They're my colleagues and I trust them fully. And I think that the way I've built my team around me is probably the key to the success of the business overall.
Oh, 100%. Because like you said, you're one person, you can't do it all. And you guys listening, key points to take out there is have some grace. You'll screw up, it's okay. And have balance in life and surround yourself with really good people. I
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. So quick
Yeah.
question. Do you do the things that you like before the things that you have to do? Or do you do the
Yes.
things that you have to do before the things you like?
Yeah. So I typically do the things I like to do before I do the things I have to do. That way, it's not a reward system, and I don't feel like I've failed if I don't get things done.
Mhm.
So in the mornings, I get up, I take Banjo for a walk. He comes to work with me every day, so he's here wandering around behind me.
Was he that white
Um,
dog I saw?
that's my dog. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was your
Banjo.
dog.
He,
Banjo.
he hasn't missed a day of work in 11 years now,
He
so
hasn't called in
he's with
sick in
me.
11 years.
Yep, no, he never takes a sick day. So I get up, I take Banjo for a walk, and then I meditate every morning. I either spend some quiet time reading or in gratitude, breath work, whatever that means, whatever I'm needing in the moment. And then I work out every day. I'm really fortunate. We have a full gym right here in my office, so I work out every day before I start work, and I know what my peak activity window is. So that's one really crucial thing for anybody in business is to know when your mind is most productive. Mine's between 11 and 3. And so up until about 10 o'clock, I get to do all the cool things I want to do. I try to self educate for 45 minutes to an hour. I learn about things. That's when I read newsletters or Google things that I need to know about. And then I move into work, and that allows me all the time that I need to really be here in my office and get everything done that I need to get done. And if I don't get it all done, it'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. God, there's so many good points right there, guys. Like, pause, rewind this, watch that again, or listen to that again. So, like, some really good points. One of them that I used to do a lot, and I got away from, and I'm doing again, is meditation. Man, it's just so good for my brain. It's so good for my brain. It's so good for productivity. It's just so good for my life. It's like, and I really want to turn my computer around right now because right behind this computer is a handwritten sign that says meditate. It's like that big. So I don't
Love,
forget to meditate. Yeah. Yeah.
I
But I
love that.
like, I didn't never use the peak productive window. I've never
Hmm.
used that before. So my thought has
Yeah.
always been, is like, okay, if my goal is going to take 500 hours to accomplish, I want to get there as fast as possible. So I'm like, how can I get there as fast as possible? I'm going to work 15-hour days for the next however many days it's going to take to get to 500, but which is probably not. Don't, guys, don't listen to that. Listen to Julie.
Yeah, I mean that's another way to look at it. You probably achieve that goal a little faster, but you probably brain will be
Yeah, but
fried when you get there.
yeah,
Um,
quality of life is not, you need more.
yeah, right. Yeah, and I think some people may become intimidated by the thought of meditation. There's kind of preconceived notions. They think that you have to sit in a silent room and sit with your legs a certain way, and you have to
Yeah.
close your eyes, and they think you have to not think about anything, and none of that's true. So there's a lot of different forms of meditation. Sometimes, and again, I'm really fortunate because my meditation room is right next to the gym. So I actually have a silent room. I can go in and sit with, whatever I need to that day. But sometimes, even if I just have a problem at work and I just really need to solve something, I'll not take my phone in there with me. I will take my shoes off and I will go in my meditation room until I figure it out and
Yeah.
just sit there in thought and contemplation and allowing myself kind of that time without distraction. So that can also be super healthy for people who maybe are faced with things they just don't know what they want
But
to do.
in that moment, you're not trying to go back to not having a thought. You're like more focused meditation of like, okay,
Yeah.
here's what I'm trying to solve. Let me take
Yeah.
away all the distractions and get real calm about it and just figure it
Yeah.
out. Huh. I
Yeah,
like
with intention. And also, people underestimate the power of breathing. So, breathing deeply and correctly and breathing extra oxygen into your body can actually help you and your brain function in those moments. So, getting comfortable with literally just taking some deep breaths whenever you need to kind of, work through something. I think it's one of those things they should just teach in school, right? How to breathe. It's the first thing we do when we come to this world. It's the last thing we do. Like, why don't people know how to breathe better?
I
So
mean,
it's one
that's
thing,
super true.
know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't realize how to breathe. So That's been helpful for me. I went through this whole meditation thing. We started a separate company, Carbon Unwind, a couple of years ago, where it's sleep and meditation. And just working through that with my team, I learned so much, and I became a better leader because of it.
Yeah. And I know you guys are like out there thinking, oh, look at these two hippies talking about meditation. But hey, I'm a big burly hunter, dude. All right. I'm very masculine, but I love meditation. And I'll be honest with you, today was pretty rough day. Not rough, but just there's a lot going on. Our daycare was closed because of sickness. So I've got a 1-year-old little boy. So me and my wife are like back and forth taking care of him today. And it was my turn right before the podcast. And I'm like, I am mentally wiped out. How am I gonna have this podcast with Jules? And I for 5 minutes I sat and meditated before the podcast, and I just feel so much refreshed now, and I can
Love that.
actually hang and have good mental thoughts and not go ba-da 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 on the
I know a lot of big burly guys who love to meditate. It's amazing. It
yeah.
just, and it can mean something different to everyone.
Yeah, and then you have different goals and outcomes for the meditation. So
Mhm.
um so okay, we just got done talking about key factors of success. Do you have any, like, you literally gave us probably about 20 or 30. Is there like a top three that you say, hey, focus on these? What do you think?
Keys for success.
Yeah.
It's all who you surround yourself with. I really firmly believe that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Um, I I definitely believe that. A lot of people think I'm the smartest person here. It's definitely not true. So that one's a big one. Um, Time management, because you know on time management, other people are relying on you. So if I'm just in here goofing off and looking through Instagram when I'm supposed to be doing something that helps my team, that's rude. I
Sure.
wouldn't want to be, that guy who's holding up the process because I can't manage my time properly. So it's my responsibility to make good decisions. And one of those decisions is how to manage my time. I do recommend that you and everybody look into peak activity windows. Some people, how you'll be talking to someone and they're like, oh, but I'll wake up at 3 o'clock and have this burst of energy. And, maybe you think, oh, your circadian rhythm is off, or take a sleeping pill, like, why aren't you sleeping? But their brain starts firing at a certain time
Mhm.
for whatever reason. And it took me a lot of years to figure out when my brain is at its peak for certain things. So my team, I have, a group they schedule all my calls, they put things on my calendar, and they almost never put anything on before 11. So, and it's not because I sleep in, Lord knows I don't do that, but it's because my brain starts working at a higher level around that time of the day. And I feel like that's when I provide the most valuable feedback, or the most, valuable part of me that I need to bring to the table.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense and takes a lot of self-awareness to know that, rather than, running through a day with a chicken with its head cut off, just trying to keep up with all the to-dos and the emails, and you're all over the place. Take some
Mhm.
self-awareness to say, hey, these 3 hours are my most productive hours, and this is when I schedule my most important stuff. So
Right.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, self-education. I mean, if you want me to really sound like your mom lecturing you, you know, everyone, you guys, all of you should be educating yourselves every day. It's free. Why would you not be learning something new every single day? I actually, here in my office, I have um, what do you call it? The sand sitting right there, the
The
hourglass
hourglass? Yeah.
hourglass, and it's an hour, hence the name. So I have an hourglass here, and when I, need to self-educate, I'll flip that thing over, and until that sand runs out, I just learn something. There's a lot of colleges that offer free courses. You can actually take free classes on all these different subjects and topics and just learn new skills. Not, it doesn't even have to apply to your daily life, but I mean, who doesn't want to, just constantly be learning new things, and
Constantly
and
be
you never know
evolving.
how that will affect you.
Yeah. And plus it fends off like Alzheimer's, right? Like continuing to learn new
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of audiobooks. I'm not a big reader. I joke that I have reading induced narcolepsy, that if I start reading, I'll just fall asleep. immediately. So
Yeah.
audiobooks is key for me because I do a good amount of driving each day. So I'll drive and listen to an audiobook, and that's kind of my learning each day. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
if you
agree with
ever want to my book club, and not that I have a book club, but I'll send you a list of books. I go through probably 3 or 4 audiobooks a month, maybe, just same. Anytime I'm doing anything, I've got a book in. And what a great way to, I mean, look at this, look at us sitting here with all of this technology at our fingertips, right?
Right.
I mean, people who lived 100 years ago would be like, why are you not taking advantage of this? You guys are crazy if you're not educating yourselves every day.
Right. People that live 100 years ago either needed a really good mentor, which is a lot of time and
Mhm.
energy, or they needed to go find a good library and spend a lot of time reading a book in a library. So we can
Yeah,
multitask. We can listen to an audiobook while we're doing something else. Like, yeah, I agree with you
yeah.
100%. That's some really good key points, guys. If you're listening, I mean, Julie didn't become Julie just, out of luck. So she definitely knows what she's talking about there. Last time I talked to you, Julie, um, we had talked about an interesting living situation that you enjoy, which is, and I want to call it like a simplistic lifestyle where like I think you said like you're living out of your car at one point, right? Didn't you say something like
It
that?
sounds so bad when you say it out loud, but I highly recommend people just like live out of their car for a little bit. It will open your eyes to how little you need in this life. It's incredible. I don't currently live in my car. I just want to put that as a disclaimer. Homeless. Um,
I
but I
could
do
see the
encourage.
headlines now. President of Carbon TV, Julie McQueen, still living out of her car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably go along with it too. But yeah, so for a time, the story behind that is it was about 5 or 6 years ago, it was in 2017. I was moving from Tennessee to Montana, and I made that move. I drove out there, took my dog, and like life begins, right? Well, I had a series of hunts planned, all around, out west and from state to state. And so instead of traveling and going back, to the house I was in, I decided to take my dog and pack just the essentials in my vehicle. And I got one of those tents that goes on top of your vehicle, which is really cool. And I trained Banjo to get in it. I put a yoga mat down the windshield, and he could hop up on the hood and walk up in the tent.
Oh, perfect.
So it was amazing. So we lived in my car for about 6 months and didn't really ever go home. Just, I mean, I could have gone somewhere. So I don't think that qualifies as being homeless, but I encourage it because I learned more about myself during that time than I ever had before. I learned what I don't need. I learned what I really do need and what I do like. Kind of learned, how to take care of myself in situations that wouldn't have been comfortable. Personal safety. A lot of life lessons came with just removing all of the unnecessary from my life for a little while, and a lot of healing came with that. So that's a great time to do a deep dive. I mean, when you don't get to sit on your couch and watch TV at night, you have to kind of deep dive into your own self. And I came back from that trip a different person, I believe. And yeah, so I'm an advocate for people to to minimize your life and really focus on the things that are important.
I agree 100%. I'm a very simple guy. I don't need hardly anything. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you, okay, here's why I'm in the position I am with doing what I'm doing is I hit 40. I know we're not going to call it a midlife crisis. We're going to call it a
I'm
midlife
42.
adjustment.
I'm
You have,
40. I turned
yeah.
40 also. So
Well,
we're
I'll be 43 in February, but when I hit
oh, okay.
40, yeah.
Okay.
When I hit 40, I had a midlife adjustment where I had been an entrepreneur for 20 years, 20 plus years. And if you remember what I said about, okay, have a goal, how do we get there as fast as possible? I worked really, really hard, right? Like my life was a bit stressful. I worked really hard to try to accomplish all these goals and everything I wanted to do in life. I hit 40 and I realized none of that matters. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is what experiences I have in life with other people, and my experiences with my family, friends, my relationships, and I wanted to go on really cool adventures, and it always revolved around hunting with me with the adventures. So I hit 40. I said, you know what, I'm selling everything and I'm going on adventures. So I sold all my companies and I retired, right? But I only had so much money to retire for so long. But
Uh,
I retired at 40. for a few years. And I went on a whole bunch of adventures and I'm loving my life. And I realize how simple life could be. But here's the key, that I would love to go and be super simplistic, because that means there's less responsibility and less that you would have to do in life, right? And I don't need that stuff. But if you have kids, here's what I realized. If you have a kid, and I love my kids, if you have kids, that means you have to have a house. If you have a
Yes.
house, you have a mortgage. And then you need transportation to get your kids from place to place, and you have to buy good food for your kids. So I can't go completely simplistic where I'm living out of like my vehicle and like I want to, but I would love to do that, but I chose to have kids and have a family, so I can't go completely to that side.
It's very, yeah, very different path. I definitely do not have children, so that was a little bit easier for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think it'd probably be frowned upon if you did what I did, but you also have children.
I think
I
child
don't think,
services would be called.
yeah, I don't think that would be celebrated very openly.
I don't think so either. Well, Julie, what is next for you and next for Carbon TV? What do you have on the horizon?
So it's going to be a really great year for us at Carbon TV. Every year is great, but I have a feeling this is going to be our best one. We have a lot of stuff happening with the business. One thing I'm really excited about is, earlier when I said, there's a lot that happens and we don't always talk about it, and everyone thinks it's this, but really all these other things are going on. So we are doing and this applies to you, but probably, not all of the listeners, but it's something I'm proud of. So I'll talk about it.
Sure. Absolutely.
We're doing kind of like a quarterly update for all of our producers, because sometimes we forget to celebrate these wins and these really cool things going on. And we're on to the next thing, right? We're solving the next problem instead of celebrating the thing that we just did. So every quarter, we'll be sending out kind of a list of all of those new features and user experience updates and new shows that we're proud of, or new distribution, which I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of that we've been working really hard to get it all into place, and then we just kind of on to the next thing. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about every time a new year rolls over, there's new opportunity for better communication, new ideas, new creative ideas. So Carbon TV is going to have a really good year. We've added new shows, new features. Obviously, we offer podcasts now on Carbon, which has been going really well.
Yeah.
The team's been really hard at work with a full redesign, which we haven't actually announced yet, but there you go. Here in the next hopefully month or so, maybe I'm pushing for the next month,
Yes.
But it might be a little longer.
I won't get this
Everything's going to
podcast
look
out
very
for a couple of weeks, so that gives you some more grace time.
Oh, good. Yeah. So about a month. We'll have, when you go to Carbon, it'll look completely different. We've been working on it for a very long time. I have a meeting tomorrow so they can walk me through what all of that looks like. And I think that's really important for us to always keep in mind, that we are here to create this platform for the producers and for the viewers. So, as we're building those things, it's not, oh, what would optimize my life? What would make it easier for me? It's, what do we think our viewers are most interested in? How do we tap into that? And how do we set our producer partners up for success? And I'm really excited about some of the ideas that the teams come up with. Obviously, it's quarter 1 right now, so we're implementing, and then quarter 2, we should see some really cool stuff coming out from Carbon.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I love the idea of sending it out. Hey, here's all the new stuff that we just did, because I didn't realize the short form stuff, because I've been kind of in a hole and I haven't been producing as much content as I like to be. But the short form stuff, the new linear type of things that you guys are doing, that just kind of re-energizes me to start creating content again for viewers on Carbon TV.
Yeah, yeah, and on each different platform, each different endpoint. Roku, like I said, we just pushed an update where we offer continue watching. So if somebody steps away and they turn it off and then go do something else and come back, they can just pick right back up where they left off. They can save favorites, kind of just a better user experience overall. So
Yeah.
we're excited about those types of things.
Yeah, great. And what about you personally? What's on the new horizon for this 2023 for you?
I will be doing more of the same. I will definitely be here running this business with my team. A little bit of hunting mixed in. I've definitely decided to take more time for me to be in the field. Um, so a few hunting trips, a few, adventures that I get to go do. And now, I mean, I can work from almost anywhere. So, most people don't notice when I'm not here in the office. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be another good year for me personally. I'm in a great place. I'm a little more private than I used to be on social. Some of that is time management, where I just don't have the time to do it. But the other side of that is I really enjoy my privacy, and when I do anything that's public facing, I get to do it through avenues like this with you, and that means more to me than just every day putting my whole life out there on display. um, you know, Things like this where I get to be in communication and kind of be in community with our producers. It means a lot. And I never want people to think I take that for granted. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
And it,
I
it
love.
it takes a lot of energy to put your life out there on social media on a daily basis. And it's sometimes nice to conserve that energy and just enjoy some moments to yourself or with you and your friends and not have to put it out for everyone else to watch, right? So I understand that
Right.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I've evolved in that way, and I should be on social media a little bit more than I am, but so maybe I'll work on that because I know people are curious, and it's good for the company for people to know what I'm up to. I have an obligation to the people who who we're partnered with. So yeah, but overall, 2023 is going to be an amazing year for me and the business. I'm happy. I feel like you know everything. I don't think anything could be better, to be honest. I'm so
Or knock on
blessed.
some wood somewhere.
I know, right? I can't believe I get to wake up and do this every day. I'm really blessed.
Well, that is the dream, I think, is enjoying what you do every day because a lot of people don't enjoy what they do, which I kind of, I have a really big philosophy in life is you can literally create anything you want in life. So if you
Yeah,
can think it, you can create it. If you want something for your life, you absolutely can do it. And I'm perfect example of it. I'm just this farm boy from Nebraska that big entrepreneur. Now I'm changed my entire life to go on adventures and like I'm no one special, but I'm doing what I want to do. So if you're stuck somewhere not enjoying your job or enjoying your life, you have the power and control to change it. So fantastic for
absolutely.
you, Julie. You have done that and you're continuing to do
Yeah. And the best part is I get to be an observer while other people do the same. I always keep in mind that at Carbon, we provide a service that allows people to live their dream. And there's a lot of those shows who air on this network. And, we're working to make sure that it's a healthy business and that we're, providing all of the services we're supposed to. But I remember what that's like to be a content creator looking for a good home for that content. And that I think that's why I come to work happy every day is now I get to see people doing exactly what they love to do, and that to me is really important.
Man, I was about to like wrap the podcast up, but I have one more topic that leads into that I really want you to talk about. So
Yeah.
with that being said, I know there's a lot of people out there that want to film their hunts that are starting to film hunts because everyone's filming right now.
Mhm.
What would it take for someone to have a show on Carbon? Do you have any pointers and tips for them to be able to do that?
Yeah. So, I think authenticity is really crucial. We do get a lot of content that comes in. You can actually go to the Carbon TV website and, submit your content. We have a content acquisition team. I still head up that team. Autumn's a part of it as well, where we review every single submission that comes into Carbon TV. We take a look at it. We gauge, is that a good fit for our library? Is it something that we feel would resonate with the audience? So there's a lot of parameters there. But I encourage people to be themselves. A lot of times we see content come in and it's like they're just trying to be the other guy who they've seen on TV, and it's kind of like, oh, we're just going to pretend that we're doing the same thing, which is not a bad thing. I think there's definitely space for that, and they probably do have an audience for that. But what I see that stands out is something that really celebrates their individuality and that creativity, even if it's not the most well produced show. even if it's not the best filmed and it's not a huge budget type of production, I really respect people who just go for it. And they're like, this is who I am, and this is what we're going to do. And this is the story I have to tell, and I'm going to tell it. And, at the core, we're all storytellers, and it's better to tell your own story and to do it your own way and to really kind of show the world that vulnerability, because that's what's going to, at this company, that's what I see performing best. It's people who are really themselves and comfortable with that and passionate about it. And I think, and that's more specific to the outdoor, like the hunting, fishing space. Maybe I've just been in it a long time, so I've seen a lot of people kind of take that path of, doing something that's kind of, it's been done, which is, it's okay too. But I'm a huge fan of creativity and people who, put their heart and soul into something and want to tell the world their story. And thank goodness we have a lot of space for that here. So we're always accepting new shows. We bring on a lot of new shows every year. We try to be supportive of them, and every single one of them, they have my contact information. Everyone has my cell phone number. Everyone gets in touch with Autumn, and we're here for them. Yeah, I've never had a problem with it. I put my phone number is on my email signature. I talk to every single producer that we've ever had and open up my phone line, because if someone needs us, I mean, I'm obligated to be here for them. So, and Autumn's the same way, and the rest of the team is also. So I think that's one thing that just brings it all back home, that, this is a company that really cares, and, we take it to heart. So.
And you guys absolutely do. And it shows, I know a lot of my viewers may not see it how I see it because I'm in it with you guys and I'm a producer with you. But even, that's really good advice for you guys listening. You're thinking about possibly doing a show, even if it's just for YouTube or for a different platform. It's not even Carbon. Like, that's really good advice that Julie just said. And it's advice that I've taken because I started going down a road of like higher quality cinematography and like producing a show. And it wasn't as fun as me going out alone hunting and self-filming. I have way more fun with that, and it's more authentic for me. So I've taken that big step and big turn to do more of that rather than try to produce this big show, because I'm seeing everybody else with these amazing shows and high production quality, and just not me. And I want to stay more authentic that way. So like, that's great advice for someone that's looking to start a show or even film it for themselves to watch at some point. So.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is, you be yourself and have a great time, have fun. I always say, I did not build my career in this industry by killing big animals and filling a lot of tags. I built my career having a really good time in the outdoors, and that is it. And I think everything comes from that. If your intentions are good and you're doing what you love to do, and you have a purpose, and you have, all of your ducks in a row, and you just kind of like find that thing that you want to do the most and do it. I mean, I fully support that. And it doesn't mean that being on Carbon TV or being on a network, it doesn't mean that's always the bar, that, setting the bar for success. It's, as long as you're having a good time and creating the life that you want, that's a win.
That's a win. All right, guys, this is the Western Obsessions TV podcast. You are listening to the Queen of Carbon, Julie McQueen, and I appreciate you all for listening. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Julie, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you for having me on again.
This is the Western Obsessions TV podcast, where hunting's not a hobby, it's an obsession.